And yeah, you can find my readings on the YouTube channel. I also have like a blog, but instead it's a dance log. So you can also find me dancing for fun, but reading for serious. I'm starting at 29 in Greater Beyond. That's book 3 of Bones of Starlight. More of us have arrived, reported the medical charity and other sites research coordinator, and everyone's surly. Karma Ilakwa spoke from the passenger seat of a helicopter, pointed toward the noses of a dozen others. The call was coming from her old friend, arch contact Aries Steinman. Your annoyers are stalemated against the strong presence of 6 competing companies who want to protect and acquire your information. None of us can overpower the rest of us, and none of us are willing to let anyone hurt you either. But luckily for you, you're not even where the enemies of progress think you're supposed to be. No, we're somewhere else beautiful and quiet, just as we hoped. Thank you for taking the risk. That's my specialty. I may not be here personally the entire time. Most likely, others are on relief rotation as we've planned. Tension could get ugly at any moment. But those of us who want you alive and well have a lot more collective bargaining here than those who want to damage you. The long-term risk is yours, allowing all these major players to negotiate over your IPs. Opening up is a big deal for any project, especially the top private mystery research unit housed inside of high-currency proprietary advancements. When it comes to risks, you also might want to wonder how the Foundationals got your triangulation in the first place. That thought has occurred to many. Others refuse to worry about it. Active suspicion is just as likely a waste of time, and such is not the inclination of those who've been brought to work here. We're not the Department of Spying. We are on the edge now, Karma, the absolute edge of the world, and peering off into something else. Aries sounded haggard and inspired. Please, do not tell me any more, but I'm proud of you. I hope you make it. Have your liaison inform us of any surprise positioning strategy. We'll all play off each other in order to maintain the lowest possible threat. The Foundationals here won't be going anywhere without an escort. The helicopter pilot opened the console hotbox and pulled out a mini burrito, scarfing it while projecting a steely stink eye. I hope you don't run out of safe spots. This goes a long way to ensuring that we won't. We might have to be doing this for days and days while we wait for something. Karma smiled softly. Oh, what a week this is going to be. It's okay. I'm here for you. 30. They'll be meeting us at the 3rd predetermined alternative placement, if you happen to remember which one that is. Alessandrian latitude instruments were not good over the waters of Foshan. This planet of endless seas had its own beaconing triangulation system. The tides of Foshan were like the planet changing shape. Some off-worlders experience a stronger disconnect between their memory of a place, where they think it should be, and where it is. Woolly Bee was very good at uncalculated estimation and recognition. It wasn't the clouds or the waves, but it was something else, which included both. Whether I recall where that is, I hope they can find it. The Hoopa was in to see Arjun Woolly about timetable expectations, since the first aide was the staff liaison in closest communication with the 2 dragons who were keeping them in safe seclusion. It's already ready? The lead time was 2 weeks for a custom deluxe order. The developers were compensated appropriately for their prototype off the desk, and there's a custom deluxe model on the way. This sank in for a moment. The prototype in hand. Did they get the notes? Willoughby smiled. They got a copy of the notes. Oh, I can hardly wait. Barely any of us can. We want you making your best music as soon as possible. Best is relative. It's going to be experimental, let's say, and not like anything anyone has heard on a channel. And my music has been on many channels. Right. We want exactly what you know you need to make. It doesn't even have to resemble anything anyone remotely calls music. We just want it to work. Then it will be beautiful. 31. Maria brought the chair from their room into the common area, setting it near another guardian who'd done the same. They sat off to one side, watching over the transformation of Blanket Fort Central. They nodded and smiled to each other before returning their attention to the group. It was an idyllic moment in a very strange time, so none of the adults could entirely relax, though the children created a spell of levity. Most of these kids got along really well, like they already knew each other. The details of that, no doubt, contained a saga that could hardly even be retold. This was just the next part, which actually included them. My name's Daniel, said the nearby guardian, offering a handshake. They exchanged some pleasantries of acquaintance before their attention drifted back again. Basil actually was very good at puzzles, which Maria was simply accustomed to as a characteristic. He understood the pieces needed to make the blanket shapes they were trying to achieve. Chrysanthi was a high-energy runner, dashing back and forth across the room to get those pieces into place. Maria broke their mild reverie with a question. Daniel, are you also a survivor of the affliction? I am, in case you're wondering. I am also, yes. So I know why they feel so certain about whatever it is they've been doing with the Vidani youngsters. Then you must also be familiar with the feeling of honesty, what we learned in recovery and their interaction with us so far. I've known the difference before. When someone was lying to me for a very long time, and the lies finally ended, I began to remember what it was like to have conversations that weren't filled with them. It feels just like that. Nearly our whole lives, we've been lied to about this, and the Vidani aren't lying. Don't you think so? Daniel considered and nodded just a little. I haven't entirely shared your same experience, but I know part of what you're saying. An inner awakening, like I can see and breathe when I hear the truth. Though we experienced that literally, I don't think it's a trick of programming. They don't speak like people who are just triggering loyalty. They're like co-workers on a project. Maybe it's even something about their entire mindset. All of us had to trust them at least this far. It's pretty far, said Maria, looking around at their current space station home and laughing at the incredulity of the situation. It actually is, Daniel said, laughing with her. The children were laughing about something else. This felt like the most fun she'd had since getting better. Yet, he continued, this may be the most important thing I've ever done, along the lines of supporting the ingenuity of my child, but also as something I'm able to do at a pivotal point in time. Giving permission for the possibility of a better world and letting the people of tomorrow lead the way. Isn't parenting a trip? Maria laughed some more, this time because she knew how he felt. 32. People discovered that the only way to get a treasure back was to tell its true story. The many who loitered around the mysterious towers of missing items were the ones who would listen. These were the kind of stories people didn't tell, in fear of being disbelieved. But when told truthfully, the item would come free. It was a spun glass structure of the lost and found, each item a treasure greatly desired back in possession. The truth would typically be stranger than any fabrication trying to pass as truth. Anyone who earned their item back was then able to see the beings atop the towers. They could be seen changing guard or affixing a new item to the collection. Everyone would come around to it soon enough. Though having just been rewarded for truth-telling, people at first remained quietly observant of this revelation. It was a lot to sink in. How did all this add up? People couldn't deny their own possessions, not such as these. Not the strange phenomena they went through to get their things back, or the stories they learned from each other. There were reverberations of radical honesty that stemmed from the retrieval clause in effect. Each tower was outside security zones, so everyone had already broken a rule to find it. They could break the guidelines of acceptable assumption. It was possible for a growing many to see those beautiful, strange, ethereal, dangerous ones on planets throughout the Imperium, including Alessandria. 33. First, we want to show you this thing we worked on together, before we talk about anything else important, because none of it will make sense unless you see this. Vanessa Udar had been appointed elder teenager spokesperson of the kids group on this walk with guardians present. They were gathered at the mouth of a Vidani-style bent opening, which obscured the chamber beyond without requiring a barrier. We had some help, and our idea works really well now. So here we go. Like many of the kids, Basel took his mother Miria's hand, and the group went forward through the wide, right-angled curved hall to obtain a platform view of a gigantic hold. They were received by a bunch of the familiar young Vidani at the edge of the view. A population of personnel was scattered beyond that and around the project. Literally standing multiple stories high in the center was a mechanical humanoid form with powerful limbs, topped by an empty dome. It gleamed, and the place smelled of new manufacture. Maria's default level response to one of her son's creations tumbled out of her haltingly. Wow, you made this? They already had the giant body mechs. We figured out to change what went on top to make it do something different. Like when you jam your toys together, completed Basil's mother. Concurrently, many other guardian-child pairs were having their own versions of this conversation, excitedly and cautiously divulging their roles. Did you know that they know the princess? Looking at her 9-year-old son, Maria specified, the missing princess of the Pan-Galactic Imperium? Yes, they've seen her and talked to her. She figured out something that humans could do with these scooter ships that look like that, Basil said, pointing to the clear dome at the top of the mecha humanoid. Her ship also figured out what they learned. That machine told other machines how to do it, but they still need the right machine, and it still needs a human. Not a Vidani, but a human? Okay, what does it do? This was still strangely like a living room discussion about a toy. Tempting as the parallel was, that powerful creation was not a toy. Still, Maria wanted to see where they were going with this. Well, wait. So we said, what if we put one of these machines on one of those machines? At some point when you were allowed to see both of them? Yeah, sort of. So some adults decided to help us stick it together, program the connections, and we tried it, and it works now. It'll be great. Don't worry. Vanessa cleared her throat and waved to gain everyone's attention. When she had it, she carefully raised the entreaty. We want to show you what this does so you can understand what we aim to do. It's why we're all here. Her voice dropped to another level of seriousness. Are you ready? A moment of sighing and held breath, while a ripple of consensus moved through the group. The latent interconnection they possessed, since surviving the lethal Hyraelian affliction through the grace of the Dani embedded codes, made understanding pass more easily between them. Mental signatures of revelation alerted them to wordlessly transmitted truth of emotion. Those with the perceptual acuity could discern a difference of emotional shape between Vidani and humans, even pinpoint the feelings of a more familiar individual. Such a time as this was when they might reach for that internal connection and find it helpful. The logic could follow to explain the details, but the first thing anyone wanted to know was if they would be all right. The naked reply was of well-founded confidence. Sure, said Daniel Renault, the first to break the anticipatory silence. Show us. So, I have a little under 5 minutes left. Let's see. I've gone through a few different... I think I can just wrap up this little section. But yeah, there are a few different plot lines at play here, and I just decided sometimes I pick out one, other times I guess I'm just going through a whole bunch. The nearby Vidani teenagers alerted their adults, which set the entire vault in motion. A detachment of human youth went with some of their Vidani peers to a platform which floated them into the thick of operations, under the gaze of their guardians above. Kate, stayed with the stationary group and relayed phases of the action. The youngest and littlest of the detached group emerged from a cabana, donning a fitted bodysuit with gloves. While delicate-looking, Chrysanthi was also incredibly self-assured. Her father, who'd given first ascent, watched from the front at the rail, wearing the beginnings of a small smile, while Kate continued recounting developments. And so I'm just, it feels so close, just like, you know, as a reader, when I think to myself, oh, I only have 5 minutes left to read and I'm almost at the end of the chapter and it's so close. But it's not actually that close. It needs a little more time than the few minutes we have left. But